Welcome back to Killer Fun, where we explore the intersection of crime and entertainment every other week. I'm Christy, and today I have the bonus episode from the Dirty Truth about John, our episode all about the television show that ran on Bravo called Dirty John, that was based on the podcast and the article series that ran in the LA Times. I'm so excited to bring you the few things that didn't make it into that already long episode. There's some really great stuff. But before I do that, I'd really like to welcome what seems like a bunch of new listeners to the show. Welcome. We're so glad that you found us. And we want to connect with you, yes, you, on social media. So please do find us there. You can find us on Facebook, Killer Fun Podcast, exploring the intersection of crime and entertainment. You can find us on Twitter, Killer Fun Pod, or you can send us an email, killerfunpodcast@gmail.com. Please connect with us on the socials. We have lots of great information there for you. And let us know how you found us. I would love to know. So please do join us and share. With that, we're going to talk about a new show called Inventing Anna, which I cannot wait to see. We talk about how we realized the Golden Girls, they weren't really that old in the show. I mean, they're older, but they weren't little old ladies like I remember. We talk about how Doctors Without Borders, or MSF, does have an Iraqi presence, but how that might not have been quite how John portrayed it in the show. We talk about relationship sabotage, and there's a really great resource that you can get from a psychologist named Gottman. He sends out emails that are about marriage, but can really be helpful in relationships of all kinds, both romantic and not. And with that, enjoy.
I don't know. I just love her. I can't wait to see her work forever.
Okay. Here's what I'm really looking forward to. There's a new series called Inventing Anna.
Oh,
that she's going to be in. It's not out yet. And you're like, oh, it looks like
I want to see it.
You do want to see it. And we're going to have to cover it on the show because it's about Anna Sorokin, who went by the name Anna Delvey. And she scammed all of New York society.
Really?
Yes. It's an incredible, incredible story. I've only read a few articles about it, but I remember hearing about it when she was going through her trial.
See, I feel like
you're going to hear about this or read an article about this and be
go,
like,
oh yeah.
Oh, that lady. And I cannot wait to see it because it's going to be so good.
Yeah, I can't wait.
And it's sometime in 2020. So as soon as I know where it's going to be and when, we're going to do it.
We're going to do that.
We are going to do it.
I do have my Golden Girls, coffee cup right now.
Yeah. It's darling. And
it's such a good show.
I love Betty White so much. And I'm realizing I always thought they were old ladies.
And they're really not so
They're
much.
in their 50s. That's not that old.
It's really not.
I mean, they were when it was on, that was close to my parents' age.
Right.
My parents were close to them in age.
Yeah. They were in their 50s. Well, then Ma, of course, Sophia was
80.
older, right? Yeah. 80s. And then, you had Blanche, who was denial about her
I'm only
50s.
41.
Yeah. And so it is interesting to watch how we relate to them as we get older and realize that they weren't as old as they seemed then.
Well, and, it made perfect sense to me that one was divorced. And, it made sense to me that the 80-year-old was widowed. And it made sense to me that the other two ladies were widowed. And now I'm like, they lost their husbands really young.
Yeah, exactly.
They were 50 when they lost their husbands. That's really...
Exactly.
You think you're going to have all this time. And now I realize, oh, no, that's not as much time as I thought it was.
Right. Yeah, there's this one episode where they're talking about their twilight years, and Moss I came to live with you in my twilight years, and Dorothy's like, twilight years? These are my twilight years. You're supposed to be dead. And so you get this impression that they're so old, but the truth is that they were actually sort of young.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why they're all still working.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, we digress. For that organization, when they're talking to you and me, they're going to say Doctors Without Borders, because that's how we know it. If they're talking with people whom they're actually working with and doing the organizing with, they're going to call it MSF. Yep. So, and they do have a presence in Iraq, specifically in the city that he mentioned, Kayara. They do have a presence there, but it's unclear to when they started to have their presence there, because John, this was 2014, and they didn't have a hospital there in that particular city in Iraq until 2016. So it's unclear if they were doing work there, if that's a mistake that they made in the filming, or if he knew they had a presence there, but kind of overestimated how much of a presence they had there at the time.
Well, he didn't actually go, right?
No, he did not actually go. He Googled just like I did. That's how he learned all this stuff.
That's how he learned about it. So, he didn't actually go.
But most people don't know that Doctors Without Borders is actually MSF, part of a French organization.
Right.
So that really lends a lot of credence to it, because then you hear this, he tells you this is this thing that most people don't really know and don't really think about.
Yeah, and then he just drops it like a little detail.
Yeah.
And then
it's like, oh, well, he would know that because he's part of the organization. Of course.
Right.
What about sabotaging your relationship? Well, I just happened to come across this as I was looking for self-sabotage. And, let's read the things. We see partner attacks and partner pursuit. So he's cruel to her and then apologizes and tries to make up for it. He's constantly following her, being in her business. We see all of that in these first 2 episodes. Then there's other things that we'll see. We see a little bit of defensiveness in this one too, but more so later we see that contempt, trust and jealousy, harassment and abuse, all those things come out of the woodwork. Pretty quickly.
And those fall under several categories. I mean, sure, it's self-sabotaging a relationship. It's sabotaging a relationship. It's also just narcissistic. It's also controlling. It's also a lot of things, actually.
Yeah.
Right. Pauses are good. Yeah, Gottman has his horsemen, the things that kill relationships. And if you go to his website, you can actually sign up for an email that comes out every Tuesday. It's the marriage moment. But I would suggest that really they're applicable to so many different situations.
Oh, not just
I mean, they're really
relationship.
geared towards marriage. And so that's the context. But the principle of the thing could be even applied towards, coworkers or friends, which ironically, we tend to employ these things better in those situations than
there's less at stake in those relationships.
There's
a lot
less
of the
at
time.
stake, and what's at stake is a little bit more identifiable. Oh, I don't want to get fired. Yes, sir. Like you just kind of,
Well, and it's a job. It's inherently temporary.
Yeah, and you inherently just have to put up with a certain amount of stuff, and we're okay with that.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's not the stuff that affects our deep spirit, or else we'd quit and move on. Or if you haven't yet, you likely will if it affects your deep spirit. But our marriages, it doesn't matter how shallow a situation is, it's always connected to our deep spirit.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it hard.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for joining us for this bonus episode. We hope that you'll join us next week. We're talking about Fight Club. Oh, I'm not supposed to talk about it. Check it out. Subscribe. Rate and review. We're glad you're with us. Bye-bye. I'm Christy.
And this is Josh.
And we are the Mountains and the Sea.
It's a podcast about Prince and his vast musical output.
We look at each and every Prince album.
And ancillary material like fashion, videos, related artists, B-sides, remixes, outtakes.
We choose a high, the mountain, a low, the sea, and a time capsule.
Yeah, those are her dumb rules, not mine.
Josh is a Prince superfan and has been since long before I met him.
That's right, and I pulled Christy over to the purple side with my wit and my charm.
The music helped. Join us every other week, anywhere you get your podcasts, and happy purple listening, friends.